HOA tried fining me for flying my flag, didn't know I'm a Medal of Honor recipient. Have you ever fought for something so fiercely that it defined who you are, only to have someone try to take it away over a petty rule? In the quiet suburb of Willow Creek, Virginia, retired Colonel Samuel Sam Thornton, a man who'd stared down death in the jungles of Vietnam, faced a new kind of battle. At 82, Sam was no stranger to conflict. He'd earned the Medal of Honor for single-handedly holding off an enemy ambush, saving his platoon at the cost of shrapnel scars that still ached when it rained. Every morning, he raised the American flag on a 20-foot flagpole in his front yard, a ritual as sacred to him as the memory of the soldiers he'd lost. But the Willow Creek Homeowners Association had other ideas. They sent him a letter, cold and formal, demanding he remove the flagpole by the end of the week or face a $1,000 fine. The reason? It violated their aesthetic guidelines. Sam read the letter, his hands trembling not from age but from a rising fury. This wasn't just about a flagpole, it was about everything he'd fought for. Sam wasn't one to back down. He'd faced worse odds than a clipboard-wielding HOA board. The letter came from Karen Whitaker, the HOA president, a woman known for her iron grip on the neighborhood's manicured lawns and uniform mailboxes. Karen had built a reputation for enforcing rules with the zeal of a drill sergeant, issuing fines for unapproved garden gnomes or slightly off-shade window blinds. To her, Sam's flagpole was an eyesore, a defiant middle finger to her vision of suburban perfection. Sam, however, saw it differently. That flag wasn't just fabric. It was a symbol of the blood he'd spilled, the friends he'd buried, and the freedom he'd defended. He crumpled the letter and tossed it into the fireplace, watching it curl into ash. "They want a fight?" he muttered to his old service dog, Ranger, who thumped his tail in agreement. "They've got one." Sam's first move was to call a meeting with the HOA board. He arrived at the community center in his old army jacket, the Medal of Honor ribbon pinned proudly to his chest. Karen sat at the head of the table, flanked by her loyal board members, their faces a mix of smugness and impatience. "Mr. Thornton," Karen began, her voice dripping with condescension, "your flagpole disrupts the neighborhood's aesthetic harmony. Our covenants are clear. You need to remove it." Sam leaned forward, his steel-gray eyes locking onto hers. "Ma'am, I didn't carry wounded men through a hail of bullets to be told I can't fly my flag. This isn't about your rules, it's about respect." The room fell silent. Karen's smile tightened, but she doubled down, citing bylaws and threatening legal action. What she didn't know was that Sam had already called in reinforcements. The twist came in the form of Emily Chun, a young reporter for the local paper who'd been digging into HOA overreach stories. Emily had moved to Willow Creek a year ago, renting a small house down the street from Sam. She'd heard whispers of his military past from neighbors, but had no idea about the Medal of Honor until she saw him at a Veterans Day event, quietly saluting as the flag was raised. Intrigued, she'd done her homework, uncovering Sam's citation on the Congressional Medal of Honor Society's website. When Sam mentioned the HOA's letter over coffee one morning, Emily's journalistic instincts kicked into high gear. "Colonel Thornton," she said, her eyes gleaming, "this is a story the whole town needs to hear." She promised to keep his Medal of Honor status under wraps until the right moment, knowing it would hit like a grenade. Emily's article dropped the next day, front-page news. Local hero threatened with fines for flying American flag. She detailed Sam's service, his Medal of Honor, and the HOA's audacity, quoting neighbors who called the flagpole a point of pride. The story spread like wildfire, picked up by national outlets and shared across social media. By noon, Karen's inbox was flooded with angry emails from veterans groups, local politicians, and even a congressman who called her actions un-American. The American Legion rallied, organizing a protest outside the HOA office, with dozens of veterans standing shoulder to shoulder, flags in hand. Karen, blindsided, tried to spin the narrative, claiming the HOA had no issue with the flag itself, just the unauthorized structure. But the public wasn't buying it. Her own board began to fracture, with 2 members resigning in embarrassment. The showdown came at a packed town hall meeting. Karen, red-faced and clutching her gavel, tried to maintain order as residents demanded answers. Sam walked to the podium, his steps slow but deliberate, Ranger at his side. He didn't mention the Medal of Honor, he didn't need to. Emily's article had done that work. Instead, he spoke of the flag's meaning, his voice steady but thick with emotion. I raised this flag for the men who didn't come home. You can fine me, sue me or lock me up, but that flag stays. The room erupted in applause. Then, in a moment no one expected, Emily stood up, holding a printed email from the governor's office. Virginia's legislature, spurred by Sam's story, was drafting a bill to protect flagpoles for veterans, inspired by a similar case years ago involving another Medal of Honor recipient, Van T. Barfoot. The crowd roared louder, drowning out Karen's attempts to respond. Karen's empire crumbled. The HOA board, under pressure, voted unanimously to rescind the fine and amend their bylaws to allow flagpoles. Karen resigned the next day, citing personal reasons. But whispers around Willow Creek suggested she'd moved to a neighboring town, unable to face the neighbors she'd alienated. Sam's flagpole stood untouched, the stars and stripes catching the morning light each day. The community rallied around him, with kids leaving handwritten thank you notes in his mailbox and veterans stopping by to share their own stories. Emily's article earned her a journalism award, but she insisted the real hero was Sam, who'd fought not for glory but for principle. Sam's victory wasn't just about a flagpole, it was a reminder that courage doesn't retire. He'd faced down an HOA with the same grit that earned him the nation's highest honor, proving that some battles are worth fighting, no matter the odds. As he sat on his porch, watching the flag wave, he felt a quiet pride. Not for himself, but for the country he'd served and the community that had his back. The fight had shown him that the values he'd bled for still lived in the hearts of those around him. What do you think? Should HOAs have the power to restrict symbols of patriotism like the American flag? Or is it a step too far? Share your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going.